Hey, everybody, welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking about what to look for in a job description. Now, the job description, you might not know, it's that paragraph of text with a bunch of bullet points when you're applying for a job. Companies will put it out there. Oftentimes, companies will put it as their ideal wish list for a candidate. Doesn't mean that you have to have everything that's on that list, but that's what we're going to dissect in this episode. I'm joined with my co-host, Dave. Hey, Dave, how's it going?
Hey, Vince. Thanks. Excited to talk about this topic. It's one I've thought a lot about.
It is such an important one. And a lot of the people, what's baffling to me, you've hired hundreds of people, if not thousands, throughout your career.
Yeah. Yep.
It
And
is baffling to me how many people do not read the job description before they go into an interview.
yeah, and so like what I try to coach people to do is like understand the anatomy of a job description, because obviously you're looking at hundreds of them and you got to skim them quickly. And some of the stuff you can kind of toss aside, some of the stuff you want to go to right away. And the way I think about it is the way they're generally broken down. There's no standard, unfortunately. I wish there was. Every company does it different. Some get like really cute and like write it as a story. Some get super structured. But generally, what I've seen, these are the sections, is you've got kind of a section about the company. If you're really curious about the company, you can read that. Generally, you can sort of skip past that. Then they'll have what they call like the responsibilities of the job. So these are the what to expect day to day. They start to describe out, what you'd be doing in the job. And then they have the requirements section. And those are the kind of like, if you don't have those, you will probably be automatically disqualified. And if you don't meet those, then you probably need like a referral in. That doesn't mean that you have no chance of getting the job. But if you're just applying online, they're going to automatically check for those. And so those are, I'd say, like the major parts. And then, below you'll have kind of like compliance things, ADA, equal opportunity employer. You should check those. Those are important. But in terms of like your quick skimming, I would say the responsibility and the requirements are the two main sections you really want to look at.
Let's really dig into those requirements because we went fast on that. So at one point in my career, I was on a recruiting team for a Fortune 100 company. So kind of like a look behind the scenes on the applicant tracking system. That is the company website. When you're applying on the careers website, you're going to have a section where they're going to have you put in your name, basic information, phone number, email address, things like that. And then oftentimes it'll either let you import your work history or you can upload your resume or type in your work history. Now, right before the submit button, there's a section where there's sometimes like 3 to 5 yes or no questions, or it's 3 to 5 multiple choice questions. So when Dave's talking about the requirements on the job description, that oftentimes ends up in those 3 to 5 questions. And so an example of it would be, do you have a bachelor's degree in communications, journalism, sociology, or a related degree? And then there will be an option to select yes or no. So what Dave's talking about is if you select no, oftentimes that system will just screen you out. So if you know that you don't meet one of those requirements, it doesn't mean that it's like game over for you. It just means that you need to work a little bit harder to be able to get a referral in where somebody can vouch for you and say, hey, this person has comparable experience. In fact, their experience might even be better than what the job description is listing out.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever been involved in the process, you know kind of how it works, right? A hiring manager needs to open up a requisition or a role. They work with a recruiter to write the job description. Maybe they've got one from before, maybe they don't. And the hiring manager will say, "Well, I really want them to have this ability. I want them to know how to use this software. This is really important for us. These are requirements. These are kind of nice to haves. These are need to haves." And so the JD or the job description is really a company telling you this, what Vincent's calling is the wish list. This is what we want. And so your job is to show that you check as many of those boxes. But that requirements section tends to be a funny one. That's where you'll see like years of experience required, right? That's also fuzzy. How do I decide? Do I have 7 or 6 years of experience? Is it based on like calendar time or start and end time? So you can kind of play with those, but it's really important that you spend time understanding those because those were put together for a reason. And some of those, to Vincent's point, will disqualify you right away. So you really want to be mindful of what's been put into that job description.
Let's talk about the responsibility section a little bit. Usually that's like the second section. So there will be a paragraph talking about the company, talking about the role. And then there's usually a section that says responsibility, and there's 10 or so bullet points under responsibility. What should somebody be looking for as they're reading through that section?
So what you want to try to do is like look for linguistic cues. as what really matters to this company. Some of them are going to be kind of generic, like you've got to be a good communicator, you've got to work with other teams, you've got to cross. Okay, like those are awesome. Those are for all jobs. But if look for things like must have experience with, really important that we call these emphasis words. And where is the company emphasizing linguistically that these things matter, right? That's someone like that's the hiring manager saying to the person helping them write the JD, hey, we got to make sure they really know how to do this. And so they're trying to emphasize these things that matter. And that's what you want to look for, because it's not all equally weighted, right? There's like 2 or 3 things that they really care about. And that's what you want to try to discern from that section.
And those things matter so much. And if you want to take things to the next level, if you see a bullet point that says, let's say for a social media marketing role, analyze social media performance and KPIs using third-party tools and, business intelligence tools, you can literally take the word analyze, and that should become one of those power words, those action verbs that's on your resume. And you definitely want to have an example of that on your resume, ideally in that exact scenario, analyzing social media KPIs, key performance indicators. And if not in that, at least analysis in something else to be able to show, because what the company's really looking for is they're looking for somebody who's data oriented.
Yeah. The other thing, I would look to see if there's statements that are kind of repeated. Sometimes they might say the same thing a couple different ways. To go with Vincent's example, they might say analyze social media, then worked with BI tools. And then if you look at software, they might say, Tableau or Looker. And so it's like, okay, this really matters to this company. In this particular JD, I need to emphasize my analytical abilities. Now, another job description with the same exact title might be about like content creation and your graphics ability. And that's where just having like the same resume is not going to help you. So the job description is kind of your map to getting into the company.
And what's really interesting about this, I'm going to go back and tell a story. At one point I was hiring for a marketing role and somebody didn't have this experience. And they were able to network and they were able to get an interview. And what they did, which I thought was brilliant, was between the time that they applied and the time that they interviewed, they went out and they got couple free certifications. They just went online and got a Google Analytics certification and I think another like HubSpot certification. And they were literally able to walk into the interview and say, I don't have that type of analytics skills. However, I think I could learn it pretty quickly because I finished X, Y, and Z last week and it was pretty easy to learn. And so, given the opportunity on this job, I think I can learn it. Which I only share that story. That person got hired, by the way. That I only share that story to say that you shouldn't look at this as a hard list of items that you absolutely must have in order to even have a chance or to apply. Because learning agility goes a long way, and mentality is half the battle.
Yeah, completely agree. And so that's why you really want to look at the job description as a way to understand what the company intent is. Produce a resume that answers that, and then use that as a way to understand what your talking points will be in the interview. So that's job descriptions. We spend some time on them. Obviously, don't get stuck spending all your time on it, but they are the kind of keys to getting into the company.
Hey, everybody, thanks so much for joining us. This episode has been all about job descriptions. We'll see you next time.